key number 6. So, you know, we've gone through the inflammation, the lifestyle, the diet, really looking at cortisol. Let's also look at the brain chemicals. Let's go into some of these other neurotransmitters, or these other like peptides and gut hormones, and that affect our appetite as well. So we're going to be talking about CCK, the ghrelin, the leptin, insulin, and we can see all of these on the graph and how they work together to help regulate both the need to eat and satiety. So there's a couple things that happen when a person eats a meal that signals the brain that they've had enough to eat. The first thing that happens is the gastric stress response. So essentially there's, you know, fibers in the stomach that stretch, and that starts to tell the brain, you know, we're getting full, we've had enough to eat. And this is why so many times people will recommend using a fiber supplement to help with weight loss. And I think that a fiber supplement has a good place, but, you know, I can't say I've had an immense amount of success using fiber supplements alone for people for weight loss. I think we need to use them in conjunction with all of the rest of this. There's also gut peptides, and some of them help induce satiety, feeling full, and others will actually induce your appetite. And it's the balance of these that should keep a person's weight stable and healthy. So here are the ones that decrease appetite and where they come from, and those that increase appetite and where they come from. So we're going to be talking about CCK, the leptin, insulin, cortisol, and the ghrelin. So CCK, cholecystokinin, this is a gut hormone, and its major biological action is to reduce food intake. So this kind of starts to get you thinking like, oh, you know, if we could really affect CCK, that can help our patients with feeling full and feeling that satiety. CCK impacts circulating levels of insulin and leptin. So once again, all three of these work together to inhibit appetite directly. So it's not just one, but we need all three of them effectively working. The ghrelin, this is an appetite-inducing hormone or peptide, and it also will stimulate the appetite by lowering leptin levels. So once again, we can see a balance between these two peptides in stimulating satiety. Leptin, now this is released by fat cells, so it's an adipocyte hormone. We've seen that obese people actually have a very high level of leptin in their systems, and that it's actually an insensitivity of leptin that may be causing its ineffectiveness. So leptin is actually supposed to help with decreasing appetite and increase satiety, yet you see such high levels in obese patients. And so at first that seems very counterintuitive. But it's actually the fact that they've become insensitive to the effects of leptin that it's no longer effective in inducing or in decreasing their appetite. Now, the two of them actually need to, once again, be in balance with each other, because if you have this imbalance, you will actually see an increase in forming fat cells, and they become very efficient at storing this fat, which will then lead to more weight gain. So we need to have a balance between the two gut peptides. Insulin helps with a feedback system that regulates appetite, feeding behavior, and energy balance. I mean, so much, we oftentimes just think about insulin as, oh, insulin resistance and insulin is bad, and you know, too much of it causes inflammation, but we actually need enough of it to do its job, because otherwise you have type 1 diabetes. But you don't want so much of it hanging around all the time that you develop insulin resistance and down the road type 2 diabetes. So really, once again, this comes back to a balance. Insulin does help suppress our appetite, but we need it in the right amount, because otherwise that will cause other problems. So we've actually seen people who don't have enough insulin levels, this will lead to increased food intake and weight gain. I'm not usually too worried about people having low insulin levels, quite frankly. I would say the vast majority of my patients, if anything, we see that it's somewhat high. So, but do look at it in conjunction with the other hormones. So cortisol we've seen the ghrelin, remember this stimulates the appetite, levels are increased in cortisol responders, and psychological stress may induce an increase in plasma ghrelin levels. So increase your cortisol levels, that's going to, once again, increase your appetite.